In this video, we're going to look at the distance formula. So distance formula. And we're just going to derive the formula, so come up with the formula, and then maybe do a simple example. So the distance formula gives the distance between 2 points, say x1, y1, and x2, y2. So we'll let these be our points. And to come up with the distance formula, I guess we have to draw a picture. So let's go ahead and do that. So this here will be our y-axis, and this here is our x-axis. Okay, and here's a point here, so x1, y1, and then here's another point up here. This will be x2, y2. And we want the distance between these 2 points. So we'll call that distance little d. And so to find the distance, we use the theorem of Pythagoras, or the Pythagorean Theorem. It's fun to say. That's the theorem of Pythagoras. And it says that if you have a right triangle, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. That's the theorem of Pythagoras. So we already have d. That's going to be our c. So it'll be d squared. So we just have to figure out these other sides here. So this distance here, well, this big distance here is y2. And this little distance here is y1, right? Because this is y1 and this is y2. So the big distance here is y2 and this little one down here is y1. So the distance we want is this one here, and that's simply going to be y2 minus y1. So the big distance minus the little distance gives us what we want. This here is x1, and this down here is x2. So we want this distance right here. Okay, so this little distance here is x1. This big distance here is x2. So to get the distance we want, it's going to be the big distance minus the little distance. So x2 minus x1. So now invoking the theorem of the legendary Pythagoras, we know that a squared, so this will be our a, and this is our b, and this is our c. So a squared, so x2 minus x1, quantity squared, plus, and then b squared, so y2 minus y1, quantity squared, equals c squared, so d squared. So using the Pythagorean theorem, we get this. And then we just solve for d. So to solve for d, you take the square root of both sides. And now when you take the square root and you have a variable squared, you do get a plus or minus, except d is a distance, so the answer has to be a plus. So d will be equal to the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. All right, that's the distance formula, and that's how you come up with it. Let's go ahead and do a really simple example of how to use it. So say we have 2 points, 1, 2, and 4, 5. Really simple. And we'll find the distance between these 2 points. So the formula, it's a square root, and it's x2 minus x1 quantity squared plus y2 minus y1 quantity squared. When you're first learning, it's really useful to write the formula down every time. So it could be helpful. So now we have to subtract. So I guess we can call this our x1 and this our y1, and maybe this is our x2 and this is our y2. So you just subtract the x's. So we do 4 minus 1. So it would be 4 minus 1 parentheses, and it's squared, and then plus, okay, plus. Then we do 5 minus 2. So 5 minus 2 parentheses, and then it's squared. Be really careful with the parentheses here, okay? It's really, just be careful. Always take your time. Let's check that very, very carefully. So we did, subtract the x's. So we did 4 minus 1, 4 minus 1, checks. Then we did 5 minus 2, 5 minus 2. So you subtract the x's, you square them. Subtract the y's, you square them. This is equal to the square root. Let's see, 4 minus 1 is 3, so we get 3 squared, plus 5 minus 2 is also 3, so we get 3 squared. Oh, wow. Okay. 9 plus 9, so we get 18. Oh, no, we have to keep going. So this can be simplified. The largest factor of 18, that's a perfect square. In other words, what's the largest factor of 18 that when you take the square root, you get a whole number? So 9, right? So 9. 9 is the largest factor of 18 that when you take its square root, you get a whole number. And so that'll be 3 square root of 2. So that's the distance. I hope that made sense.